She was the founder and host and co-host of the Propaganda Report forever. She actually was a radio host in Atlanta, Georgia, in a top 100 market, top 10 market, and she was killing it. And she did the Propaganda Report with her friend and co-host Binkley, and I think she still helps contribute to that. But currently, she is focused on deep dives with, and air quote, here we come in 3, 2, 1, Monica Perez. What's up, Monica Perez?
Yay. Oh, so much. A lot is up. A lot is up. You're right. I'm doing a new thing. It's deep dives. And instead of my old style, which was basically to kind of cover every headline every day, I take only a couple of headlines a week. And I absolutely do exhaustive research, try to crack the code, and quite often I do come up with something that nobody else thought of, like why did Nancy Pelosi go to Taiwan?
See, you can't do that. That is total horseshit what you just did on the air. I'll call it. I'm horse crap. I'm sorry. I don't
sorry.
So before we even get to the forgiveness, loan forgiveness.
Why did Nancy Pelosi go to Taiwan?
Quick.
I have one sense. It was just when there was $50 billion going to semiconductor companies to build factories in the US, and they, I think, lobbied to the tune of $20 million like the year before. The Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company that makes 95% of the eligible semiconductors. And she spent most of her time in the 18 hours she was there talking to them. And you didn't even hear that on the
with
air.
her son. Her son was running around the country.
Yeah, that's what they do, because it's like Hunter Biden comes, because they're the ones who put their names on the companies that they're allowed to invest in when they do that kind of quid pro quo stuff.
So I want to ask you though. So are you saying that she was over there that we are wanting to pull the factories here? Because I would support having factories here, so we're not tied into that. So she's basically.
There was an act that passed just before she went, and it was signed by Biden just after she went. That it's called the Chips and Science Act, and it's about bringing high-end semiconductors here. And one of the contingencies is if you want to build a factory here with this money, you are not allowed to build a high-end semiconductor factory in China, only a legacy one.
So if it's already there, it's grandfathered in, basically, the company. Yeah. If it's already there, you can build it, but new stuff comes here.
The high-end stuff.
The high-end stuff. I like that. Yeah. See, I like that. I like anything. I heard a line the other day on one of my favorite shows to binge watch, The Peaky Blinders. Have you ever seen?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay. I'm probably up to date on it unless they come up with a new season.
Season 6. They've only got 6 seasons, and they've got a movie coming out. But I've watched the whole series now probably about 8 times because I love this series. Oh yeah, I'm a psychopath in my brain. So
it's very brutal.
But there's a line in there when the bartender's talking to Thomas Shelby, and he goes, "You know, the bad thing is you're a bad guy. You're bad men, but you're our bad men. And it's weird because we want you to win." And I kind of feel that way sometimes. I'm like, our country's not perfect, and I know we've done some bad and sketchy stuff, but the world's full of that. And if I've got a default to one, I want the one that takes care of me and makes us happy and lets me go to ball games and, feeds me Doritos.
Yeah, I believe in limited government, so I'm not.
I do too. I'm just saying. Hey, you also, here we go. We're 5 minutes in, but you also went and met some farmers recently. What's your biggest takeaway, and why were you meeting farmers and homesteaders?
My biggest takeaway, they were homesteaders, farmers. A few of them have podcasts who are listeners to my show, who I met through some of the social stuff I was doing on the Propaganda Report. And they invited me to check out their places, and they were all different. They were all interesting. And the similarities, though, were really amazing. Like, they all ferment food. They all preserve food. They all understand, like, that dirt is good and spraying is bad. So you could eat anything, like even if it was covered in dirt, you could just eat it right out of the ground. And they all had, like, really strong, healthy kids. And my takeaway was that if, I'm not suggesting this for other people, but for me, I'm going to find land that you can grow stuff on. And even if I don't have the time to figure out how to grow on it now, I feel like it's the only truly lasting asset. And it's why they say, the World Economic Forum says, it's 2030, I have no privacy, I own nothing, and I'm happy. That may be possible. Drop everything and follow me. Like, I think Jesus is down with that too. And I'm totally fine with owning nothing. However, the reason they're doing that is to stave off intergenerational competition. They don't want us to leave anything to our kids. And you really, that actual land is a safety net. You don't need anything else if you have land that can grow stuff. And it offers this continuity, the roots, the community. So if there's any way to kind of put down roots in land that can grow something, even if it's just an acre, and, you know, hopefully use that as a homestead. And that goes into our next topic, which is I went to community college, and there's something good about it, but I also think there's something bad about it. And I think all of this Biden stuff is pointing to that.
Yeah, we're going to jump into that. I'll say I just ran into a friend of mine today who just bought 20 acres, and they're going to start doing it. A friend of mine that comes on the podcast of Buying for the People, because you had Eric Buchanan on your podcast, by the way, and that was fascinating. It was a great listen. I loved it. But Matthew Durham has just started trying to farm and do his own stuff, and he's finding some challenges because now they don't make as many seeds that can once the food is grown. A lot of times you could use those seeds in the plants to regenerate, and they're making it now to where you got to keep going back to the seed company.
Terminator seeds, they do it on purpose that they can't grow, and the ridiculous thing is they call it like they need it for biodiversity, but one of the people I met, she has a podcast, Greener Pastures is her website, and her husband, she was saying like, oh, this corn was from the seeds that grew best on this plot last year. So she literally has seeds that actually prefer her land. So she had a bunch of corn plants, and the one that thrived most, she's like, that is biodiversity. It's down to the acre, down to the plot. And the thing is, if there's climate change, if there is, whether it's natural or not, if there's climate change, what you want is to have the biodiversity that came from specific seeds growing on every single plot on Earth, because somewhere you're going to find the plot that your plot now is, even after the changes. Yeah. So it's just so many. I did actually, probably my most popular deep dive ever was a couple of days ago. It's called Monica's White Pill Summer.
I saw it.
It was about that. It was about all of my observations. It was almost an hour long, and I just got so much out of it.
Did you feel the need to put on overalls?
Oh my gosh! If I can show you the picture of my
show me the picture. This is a podcast. This isn't radio.
We don't have a hard break. You can show me a picture.
Yeah, this is a video cast. I'm sorry, folks that are listening on audio. I will actually make this picture if Monica can send it to me. I'll make this her profile pic so you know what we're talking about on the audio.
Okay, so
I'll make this the thumbnail picture.
I made them take a picture.
Yeah, I see them. Yeah.
But there is a picture with me.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to grab that picture. I'm going to grab that picture.
I'll send it to you. I'll send you.
Yeah. I'm going to make it the thumbnail so people listen on audio go, what picture are they talking about? We can see it. So while you're sending that, I'm going to go ahead and set up the church part of this, because I think it's a very small part. It just was disappointing when I saw the Biden college tuition forgiveness plan come down. Immediately I started seeing friends, not all my friends, and I consider them friends, but they're very liberal, and we may disagree on 8 out of 10 things or 6 out of 10 things, and that's okay. But it seems they got caught up, or we're all caught up in this gotcha moment where even my friends, I want to trap into this corner of showing them how hypocritical they are, or, you know what, you believe in this, and look at now you're violating what you believe. And I'm like, it's so disingenuous, because these topics are never got this mono narrative. They've got details and nuance, and it requires a conversation before you just start labeling everybody that disagrees with you who may be a Christian as a hypocrite. And my theory on this is, I'm sure if Jesus came down and he was here right now amongst us, he might pay him off. I don't know. But a relationship with God is a one-on-one thing. My relationship with God is very personal. And if I choose to go pay someone's college debt off, that is something I might be led to do. We're a broken world. Sin, I'm a Christian, so sin has broken our world, which now means we don't have the relationship with God, our humanity that we originally was intended to have. So we have this thing called government, which is clumsy. It sometimes becomes overbearing, grows too much, expects too much. It uses God when it wants to, then wants to kick God out when it's convenient. I understand that. But to say that we can make policies for 330 million people based off taking from some and give to the other, and then when somebody stands up and goes, that's not a good policy for the community, it's making people who never signed the contracts pay for something, everybody goes, oh, I thought you were a Christian. I can be a Christian, and I will reflect that in my daily life as much as possible in those personal decisions. But you don't get to use my Christianity against me, just like I don't want to use my Christianity against you when it becomes convenient. And I know there's violations on that on both sides. I just find it very disingenuous. The other argument I heard, and I'm going to hand it off to one of the best podcasters on the planet, is I saw many people go, you know what? I saw today maps. I went on maps and I looked up roads and national parks that I never will go to, but I'm so glad that other people get to enjoy them. And they were basically saying, just because you didn't go to college, aren't you glad you can help people who go to? I'm like, I didn't sign a contract to go to the national park. Clint didn't make a personal commitment that I am going to help pay for part of this national park, and I can't do it. And all of a sudden I need Bob to help pay me out. It is those moral, somehow intellectually moral bankrupt arguments that I hear from people, and they think they're smart and they get 5,000 likes and reshares. And I'm like, that is all foam and no beer. That does not stand up to scrutiny. That is a straw man crap gaslighting post, and you should be ashamed of yourself. I've used all my bumper stickers that I know.
That's
Monica,
excellent.
what the hell's going on in this thing? Am I right or wrong?
I agree with you totally. And I think that a lot of these arguments can apply to just welfare overall. And I've always had some general issues with the kind of welfare stuff. First of all, it's stealing under the threat of killing. So there's still, I think that it is wrong to do this, right? I think that first of all, let me say, I think college is bad for you. I think it's bad for you. It makes
and you did a deep dive on this yesterday on your program.
But the way you're framing is totally different from what I covered yesterday. But so I'm approaching it differently. But I think college is bad for you. It's not food. It's not water. It's not clothing. It's not a necessity. I think it is something that is bad for your body, mind, and soul. So I don't want to pay for it. And if you tell me I have to pay for it, you're stealing my money. And if I don't give it to you, you're going to drag me away at the point of a gun. And if I don't come with you, you're going to kill me. So it's killing and stealing. It totally violates Christianity. And I have like 4 more, but you can respond.
I'm just going to say, if I'm listening to that, I go, well, there may be 1,000 things you don't agree with that happen 1,000 miles away from you in other cities that your tax dollars end up paying for. And, but I understand it. But you're a college graduate. You've got 17 degrees?
Not a lot of degrees. Yeah. I went to school until I was 30. I got mostly, I went to community college. I dropped out of high school. I went to community college. Then I transferred to Harvard and I got a full scholarship for the tuition. I had to pay for room and board, which I didn't have the money for. And I stole toilet paper and food. So that was bad, but yes, I
it's changed though. College has changed though.
The stuff I pay for in other cities, I think is not only wrong, I think it's unconstitutional, but yeah, so I think it's stealing and killing. So Christianity right off the bat is violated. I think that it's that I actually don't like forced charity, because what it does is it robs you of the opportunity to exercise something that you absolutely have to have the opportunity to exercise, which is charity given freely. And it keeps you from being able to do that. And at the same time, it denies that this is a choice. And like the parable of the talents suggests that we should recognize our talents and make choices accordingly. But this is a result of a lot of policies that overly weight everyone going to college, which is inappropriate. Either it's there to give you skills that will enhance your earnings, in which case the loans should reflect that, and there should be no government subsidies for those loans anyway, or it's an academic pursuit that has one of 2 values. One is because you're a phenom and you should impart that academic, you will be a teacher or whatever, in which case the schools pay for you. So the schools will pay for that. That's a merit scholarship, and the graduate schools, PhD programs are often free. Or you just don't have to make a living and you want to do this for your own edification or to contribute, a gentleman scholar kind of thing, in which case it's a great way for daddy to put you to use with his money. the idle rich. It's a great opportunity for the idle rich. It's actually the best thing you can do, because then you get the idle rich to contribute to society in a way they wouldn't just waitressing. I want a waitress. You go do that. So the great diversity of human abilities is like God-given, if you want to put it in a Christian sense. So the parable of the talents tells us that. And there's a terrible moral hazard of, and it maybe also comes from the talents with the burying the money and everything. You should not borrow money that you can't pay back to pursue something that doesn't have economic value, because borrowing money is an economic exercise. And the way to avoid that, and why this is entirely the government's fault, is, and there are laws against discriminating against people based on their major. But if the government did not have such laws, did not have such subsidies and all of that, the banks would evaluate you and your choice of major and tell you whether or not they were going to give you a loan. And that would help you make the decision. So one time I applied for life insurance and I had nicotine in my system, and the premiums were unaffordable. So I said, if I quit smoking, have no nicotine for a year, will my premiums come down? And they said, yes. So I did, and they did. So I was informed at the economic value of the choices I was making, and I responded in a healthy way. And I would do the same thing. I would not be a jazz major. I would be a computer science major. And if I really wanted to do jazz instead of computer science, then that's a different path.
Yeah. Now, I agree with everything you're saying. And I mean, just to boil it down for me, I think it started a long time ago when we as a society started realizing that there are institutions and government ways to make money. This sleight of hand government college partnership. If we just told everybody, hey, it's not fair if you don't go to college. It's not fair if you're poor if you don't go to college. It's not fair if you're a person of different color. It's not fair if you're, white and poor. I mean, it doesn't matter. Everyone should go to college. And if you don't go to college, it's a reflection of a society that doesn't value your education. And in my world, I think a more honest approach, looking back on it now, would have been where we're kind of getting to now is college is for some folks. And if it's for you, we should make it happen. You should make it happen. But there's also this thing called trade school. There's also this thing called, some people are going to own a business and they don't need a college degree. I know plenty of people that own businesses that didn't go to college and they're doing great. I know. And so I say all that to say, we around the 70s or 80s had this big push, or 60s. Everybody should go to college. And if you can't go, the system is out to get you. And everybody was like, yeah. So what did we do? We started loading it up with money. We started lowering standards. We started creating degrees, majors that have no real inherent value except to make you feel smart. And then we go out into the world, and yeah, you get a job because you have a degree, but your degree, you may get a job. Most people get jobs that have nothing to do with their degree. And so now they're making more than they might have if they didn't go to college, but they're not making enough because the supply and demand came in, and colleges, the tuition went 1,000 times higher than it was in the 80s. When I went to school in the 80s, now it is way, 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 way. I'm putting a kid through college. It's way more.
And that's because the loans create this highly elastic or inelastic demand, where normally if you raise tuition, your consumption will go down.
It weeds people out.
Yeah. When you divorce those decisions from price mechanisms, then the tuition will go up. That's what even Bill Bennett, who was Reagan's Department of Ed, I guess, he predicted, and it proved out from what I read on Mises.org, that loan forgiveness programs raise tuition because the people expect them to be forgiven. But yeah.
And the colleges know it. The colleges know.
Right, the colleges know.
You're subsidizing it. So I can raise it to whatever, because if the burden gets too heavy 20 years down the road, there's precedent now. You'll just pay us our money. The main guy from Obama was on a podcast a day ago, and he came out and said this is going to kill inflation. It's going to hurt inflation within 3 to 6 months. And basically what Monica Perez just said, that it's going to eventually tell the colleges there's no reward for being, creating all of this all foam and no beer world. It's thumbs up from the government. You're going to get your money no matter what.
Another thing that would help, and then I want to address what I kind of
Yeah, I want you to get into your good word. This is just basically selfish for me to vent. I don't
No,
have
it's good. It's good. But I would also say a couple of things that what they should have allowed, the reason you have this problem is that they don't have bankruptcy. You can't declare bankruptcy. It's like indentured servitude. So if you could declare bankruptcy, people would think twice about it. Will this drive me into bankruptcy? And colleges and financial institutions and stuff would also think that, is this person going to go bankrupt? So that would help a lot. And this argument that these people are struggling, it's a class of people that is just a numerical calculation. It really, to classify people of who are making $125,000 a year or $250,000 a year as a couple and have $10,000 in school loans as struggling. I mean, you can't pay $1,000 off a year if you're making $250. I mean, that's just, these are not struggling. No reason to call these people struggling. And there's already a program in place like that. So you don't have to pay more than 10% your salary. And if over 20 years, you are always paying 10% your salary and there's anything left, it gets forgiven. And they cut that in half in two ways. They cut it in half to be 5% and 10 years. So if you get this, so the rate is 5 percentage points, like you have to pay 5% on your loans. So if you have a $100,000 school loan and you make $100,000, you would be paying 5% a year either way in interest. Right. But under the new program, you wouldn't have to pay any principal. And at the end of 10 years, the principal would be paid off. That's for anybody. And you know what happens? I know you know what happens. People tailor their lifestyle and their own financial situation to fit perfectly in that. And you are really shaping society to pivot to those rules. But I actually don't necessarily think this is going to go through. And
I don't either. I want to say one thing real quick, though. Yeah. They just came out, and you may have heard it. Even if you paid your college loan off in the last 2 years during COVID, you're going to get reimbursed.
I saw that.
And then
those who paid amid pause can get refund. That was in today's newspaper.
So apparently you weren't in crisis enough. You could still make your payments, and we're going to give you the money back. Now, what happens to the people that graduate in 2, 3, 4 years? Do they get theirs forgiven too? Or is
I think it's like people who graduate in August don't get it.
Okay.
Isn't that funny?
Continue on. All right. This is where we dive. We separate into where Monica did yesterday. Yeah, she's going to start telling us the real story behind all this.
Well, so either it is designed to bankrupt the system, which it may be, or it's designed to actually not happen and kind of like the DACA or whatever, you just put this stuff in play. And if you threaten, the Republicans, in my opinion, just play the game also. So like red flag laws, right? So they won't take your guns, but just so we can not take your guns, we need to have a bunch of red flag laws. But it's just, that way you can keep your guns. So Republicans do that. They get the everything but laws in, and then they'll end up taking your guns anyway. But so if they say, well, the Republicans saved the day by avoiding this $1 trillion bill, which is just something that's staggering. It's a staggering amount of money. And that's really what it would be with all the things that were on the White House press release. It would be $1 trillion. And the Republicans are going to save the day, and they'll compromise on something like a federal program to fund the high school community college joint program. And I'll tell you about that because I think that's the real goal here.
Okay. Okay, I'll take a deep breath because this goes back to what we were talking about before we came on the air. When they said the vaccine mandate, they knew that was never going to go through. They knew that it was going to get shut down in Supreme Court. They wanted to be able to look at their constituents and say, we tried, and win those battles. And then they wanted to be able to move the conversation like a ratchet up a little bit. And they go, well, but the healthcare workers, they have to. And so the next time we have that conversation, everybody's going to go, well, that's of course got to happen. So it's going to ratchet it up. And then I think they're coming after homeschooling, and they're going to come after pre-K. All of this is to come after all of the education, and you have to send your kid to us. And if you do it at homeschool, you're not going to have access to any of the stuff. They're not going to be labeled smart enough to get a job.
That may be true. There's a lot of, and before we get to the vision, you reminded me, the other thing I didn't mention is that people in public service, which includes healthcare workers, first responders, educators, government workers, and people who work for nonprofits, they all get their loans paid off after 10 years. So you're just driving everybody into institutions that are closely connected to the state. Mm-hmm. So okay, so that's most of the people are gonna, like, it's a lot of incentives to do that. That stuff will probably stay because it's already kind of in position.
But you've seen the man behind the curtain, you think?
I think so. So when I was doing the research, I actually didn't go to the World Economic Forum website or anything, but I was just doing some research on some facts about what drives college tuition. And it looks like it's mostly salaries. And I think what's making it bloated is like admin, and it'll never go backwards, all that kind of stuff. But I stumbled upon a document from Georgetown University over the past couple of years, because it mentions COVID in it. And it's called, it was fostering an education element that was in the Build Back Better bill that Biden put up, that has gotten broken up into pieces and passed in various ways, but didn't get passed in its entirety like they wanted it to be. But this was addressing that, and it was taking a specific thing called the all-one system, and it was like in caps, like as if it was trademarked with like hyphens and everything, all-one system approach to education. And what it envisions is that you would have, it's the birth to career, so it's the cradle to career thing. Yep. And it wants you to have counselors who work with the students to help them figure out the right path for themselves. But I think that's a lie, because the affiliates that they actually name by name are World Economic Forum related. They are all target minorities or women. They are funded by, one of them is funded exclusively by IBM. It's just IBM, but it's Google. It's all these different things that it seems to me the plan is that they don't tell these kids go be electricians, although the building arts are becoming a part of it as the centralization of the building companies happen, as home ownership and stuff gets funneled up to BlackRock and Blackstone. I think they are kind of, it's like another just big industry rather than your mom and pop shop, which was always a nice place for regular guys to get rich. So, or not, or fail. But so I think that what they're doing is they're taking people, they're identifying them very young. They're telling them, they're directing them to like IT, cybersecurity, software engineering, a few things like that in middle school. And then in high school, they're having them do dual programs with high school and community college, which also folds in work study. And it's mainly fostered by these big tech companies who then give these people jobs. And it's so curated, so I consider it to be feeding the pipeline and training the people in the pipeline. And there's a ton of government money going into it. So it's grossly subsidizing the training of people for big tech, for example. And it's kind of casting a broad net, getting everybody in there. And then if you fall by the wayside, you need your loans forgiven, whatever, then you're not a slave. You're just you're by the wayside, maybe a drug addict or something. But most people, especially minorities and women, they want them to be STEM slaves, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I went to community college, and I love the idea of it being local. They say that like we want to foster community. I don't think that's why they're doing it. I think they're doing it because these people don't need to go to four-year schools. They can live with their parents. Like, it's much cheaper if you have them do it at home, if you finish it by the time they're finished with high school. World Economic Forum wants to go so far as to say no college. We could just hire people, coders straight out of high school. But I think it's a little sinister that I think they're really focusing desperate inner city people. And by the same token, there's somebody in my family who's doing one of these programs, and someone else in my family who died of a drug overdose. So I don't, I think it's good to give people jobs, but it's, job is not something to be given. But I don't think it's a bad thing that somebody gets trained to do a job, but it's obviously hijacking the influence and the money at the government level to subsidize how the labor force is directed.
Yeah. Okay. Stay with me because I'm writing a note down.
Sure.
So here's what I think. Listening to you, and I've pulled it up. If anybody wants to know where it's at CEW Georgetown. I'm sorry. I'm going to just cut and paste it into our conversation
Okay.
because it's Center on Education and the Workforce, Georgetown University, and it's a 38-page study. And it has a lot of their stuff here. I'm going to post it before I keep talking here because I'll end up getting sidetracked. All right, there it is. It's on the thing if anybody wants to go look at it. So here's what it scares me about what you're saying. When you bring in the World Economic Forum and you start talking these big sweeping things when it involves more than just your local college. It goes to the federal level, the state level, and they want to pull as many. It's almost like the big reaper in the field. They just want to go churn everything up.
Yes.
You know, the big reapers in the field, they kill small animals. They'll take in the weeds. They'll kill everything, whatever's there.
I agree. And that's why they forgive the loans sometimes, is that
and then they
some people
sort
can't do it.
Right?
Yeah.
They sort it. Once you get in the reaper, they sort things. And so if they were to tell us, hey, everybody, we're going to take over the complete education system from kindergarten or pre-K through college. Just going to be the government. We're going to fund it. And you'll still have options, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to identify what your strengths are real early. And then we're also going to identify where the needs are in our community. And we're going to go ahead and train so we don't have this shortage of nurses and this shortage of coders, this shortage of welders. We're just going to do these things. And so we're going to have these personality profiles and these skill set tests as you move through, and we're going to plinko you like the damn Price is Right game down into the job you could fit into that's going to match your personality so you'll be happy. Well, in my world, if they were to offer that directly, we would not walk through that door as a United States. So what they're doing is they're offering it through 6 other doors that we all walk in, and then there's 3 doors that we all have to choose from. And it's literally like a funnel. It starts where we think we have choices, and eventually we all end up in this big hallway going, but I didn't want to, what happened? Wait a minute.
Right.
I wanted to start my own business.
Yeah. And
I wanted to drop out.
Yeah, they don't have to mandate it if they subsidize it. It just changes. It's just like what I was saying earlier. Like you subsidize a price, like it's going to foster overconsumption.
Yeah.
And they subsidize, it's going to foster. And that you mentioned, it, World Economic Forum wants to introduce testing that will figure out who goes where without having to send them to school. And the problem, I'm not a huge fan of college for everybody. I think that you should be able to learn liberal arts and civics and everything that you really need to know to be an informed, self-governing person in high school. I'm not proposing it's public high school, but I'm just saying you don't need to go to school past the age of 18 to figure out how to be a self-respecting, self-governing human being. But I also think that the STEM thing, science, technology, engineering, and math, it intentionally, some think, and I think, intentionally removes stuff like rhetoric and history and context and all that kind of stuff, other than brainwashing, social engineering stuff, so that you really don't know how to, you don't have that legacy of human civilization for 10,000 years that dovetails with the great laws of liberty and the American experiments and English common law and all that stuff. Like you need to have that relationship, and they are kind of divorcing us from that relationship. Also, I would say if they do want to match, all you have to do, if you stop subsidizing loans, labor and jobs will automatically start matching each other. And if you you take that extra money,
that's it.
And you stop taxing corporations, which is not like a huge amount of money. If you stop taxing corporations will flood here from all around the world, and they'll do like you probably remember when you were a kid, and I remember when I was a kid, half the people in my town went to college at night working at the big companies. IBM was one of them.
Well, not only that though, this is, I don't see how people can't see this, because this is one step. And feel free, I'll get pulled down off this. This will probably be where Clint gets labeled a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying in a world we live in now where we can't talk about I can't talk about being a man and a woman without being deplatformed. And I can't talk about, seriously, I can't talk about abortion because I'm a guy, and I can't talk about race relations because I'm white. And when a world where upside down is right side up, I don't see how people cannot see the next step of government, which has done nothing, especially out in the open now, of overreach, how this isn't well, if we can get pre-K to college and we start testing and really manipulating what the workforce is going to look like, well, that will push certain industries out of existence in the workplace. And it will only feed the companies that we really want. When we've got these relationships with the Googles and the IBMs and these big companies, so they'll get the best of the workers. And so in my opinion, it is literally, I'm looking 100 years, 50 years down the road. And once they control the education and what people do, they can also then start subsidizing companies. They're already doing it with big tech anyway. They can start saying
this does subsidize the companies.
They do.
Because you
And
don't have to pay people.
That's where you get your green energy. We'll just start funneling people into green energy stuff.
And it really fosters immigration. When you have a mismatch at the top and the bottom, at the high end and the low end, when you have a mismatch of labor and jobs, so you have a bunch of people going to college whose college degrees are worthless. Those people are not going to clean your house, but they're also not going to take those tech jobs. Who will take those tech jobs? People who are coming in from India, where the Indian government paid for their college education, or people who are coming up from South America who aren't paid at all.
Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier about what we miss when if we go down this road where the government can just, if they become in charge, and we've seen this, I call it blackmail. They can call it subsidizing or whatever. It's, hey, Monica, you own a school, you're a homeschooler, or Monica, it's, Monica County, it's a public school system, Monica County. If you want the dollars, the federal dollars, then you have to mandate certain things, or we'll just withhold the money. We'll starve you to death. That's called blackmail. And we do that in the streets. It's called blackmail. We go to jail. But it's not just what they don't teach you, Monica. I think it's what they do teach you, like you hinted to. It's the gender theory.
It's not a good, it's a bad.
That's right. There's no reason to have property. There's no reason to have a family. We are your family, all of those things.
Yeah, so I guess that is part of why they want everybody to go to college and then forgive the loans of the people who it didn't work out economically. They want people to be in college for sure. But that's what I think is probably going to come out of this, is they're not going to mandate that high school, community college, work study thing, but that's where the federal money will be. And so everyone will pivot to that. And that's how the schools will be. And they will start telling, there's someone in my family, I absolutely adore her, and I'm very happy for her. I think she's going to have a good job forever, but she's the cutest thing. And I just remember for like a couple of years now, she's in high school, community college, and she's just killing it. Said, she wants to go into cybersecurity. And I just thought it was like the craziest thing for her to even think of, cybersecurity. And now when I was looking at the programs that these affiliates offer, they're like a very limited number of topics. It's IT, cybersecurity, and like software engineering, and a few other things. I think the Labor Department just passed a law, so I think a lot of this stuff is going to go hand in hand with the Labor Department. A lot of information gathering and stuff, but I believe the Labor Department, like yesterday, just earmarked a bunch of money to have women go into the building arts, which I guess means like carpentry and stuff, which doesn't even make sense. I mean, some of that stuff is heavy. What they need to do is not keep attacking waitressing and nursing, so that the traditional kind of blue collar stuff is, they're physical. Like, you want a waitress at night. Well, actually, you want a waitress during the day with your kids at work. But I feel like some things are just easier if you're stronger. And
this is a deviate. We're deviating a little bit, but this is where we get in trouble as society, in my mind. Where we've lost common sense, and it just infuriates me. Of course, there are jobs that men are better at. Of course. Why? Because they're more physical. Does that mean that there's not women out there that can't do them? No. But does that mean overall that some things men are built for? Yes. That's why a lot of times when somebody breaking in the house, the old stereotype of, honey, there's a noise in the living room. Why? Because you go get your ass kicked. That's what you're for, buddy.
Actually, that makes me think that maybe they're doing that on purpose, because there's definitely something going on with building, the building arts, and waitressing too, where they want to take the tips and turn it into give you $15 an hour, and then the giant corporation that owns the restaurant gets 15% off the bottom of off the check. That's like a terrible thing to do to waitresses, because the waitresses are making $60, $70 an hour, not $15 an hour, the way it is now.
Yeah.
I was making a ton many years ago, but they're doing the same thing. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen like how BlackRock and Blackstone and a couple of other really big corporations are buying single family homes and just cornering the market, trying to make it so that you don't own your own home anymore and you just rent. And they're driving up prices and everything. If they're also the ones that are building the homes, or it's also gets super big corporation, how do you drive the little guy out of the market entirely, your regular construction worker, contractor, subcontractor, if you start having diversity requirements? And if it is something that like women simply have a harder time doing, like I always thought that with fire women, it's like, okay, it's fine to be a firewoman if you can pull a 150-pound person out of a burning building.
Right.
That's fine. Like, of course, you just don't want to have different standards. And if they start having different standards, they will have different outcomes, and that will take a chunk out of the profit margins, which in good times for construction, for contractors, they're good. But in bad times, these guys have to just batten down the hatches and wait it out. So if they don't have a little nest egg they saved during the fat years, they're not going to, be able to do it. So it may drive contractors out of business. Maybe that's what this housing downturn is all about, driving the contractors out of business so that they never come back, which I think was a lot of the lockdown policy was meant to drive human beings out of their jobs and replace them with either mega corporations or technology.
And that's the other thing I've seen people going, hey, if you were for the PPE things or the payment where the government was helping you, why are you against them forgiving student loans? I'm like, listen, when the government comes in and says you can't go to work, then I have a
they force people to take that.
I can't go to work, so I have to have some money because I still got to.
Outrageous.
Yeah, the student loan was nobody forced you to at the end of the month to take the loan out.
At the time, I said they are putting the stimmy checks out there after they put all hardworking Americans out of work, so that if you believe in the pandemic thing, you will say, wow, I guess there are emergencies that are no fault of your own. That, remember Pelosi, everybody used to always say, through no fault of their own, because they wanted to suck you into believing in the safety net. But in reality, this is something my mother taught me a long time ago. It took me so long to really realize it, like the abortion debate or things that are really theoretical. She's like, the reality, what is the reality that you are talking about? The reality is the pandemic was fostered by the powers that be. For whatever reason, these lockdown policies were not an organic result of best practices in the face of something unprecedented. That's not what they were, but they were sold to us as that so that we would accept these theoretical disaster scenarios that never would have happened and never did happen. And that is why they weren't reflected in our fundamental law.
Yeah, it's hearing you talk about this. One of the things I want to back up a little bit and talk about people that are going to college is they are, I need to just, I kind of hinted at it. There are women out there that can do jobs that are way more physical than I can. There's MMA fighter women out there that are way tougher. Absolutely. Well, that's easy. You don't have a
very
choice.
Physical.
It's very physical. And
it hurts. That is why we have a high tolerance for pain.
Absolutely. But I think, yeah. Okay. We'll go down that road later. So, but my point on that is I am a huge believer, by the way, because I cannot ignore history where we as humans have put certain categories into limited boxes. Women can't vote for a long time. We had slavery. Those are all atrocities. They're bad things. And so society moves a step forward. But the difference is, and this is where I want to kind of play both sides of it. I'm a big believer that women, men, people of different color, different economic backgrounds should have options. They should be exposed. They have choices. I work with I don't work with them, but I support a local group called YCAP. And one of the things, and I've got a good friend of mine who is a director of a school here, Dr. Lane Swafford. And she works with a lot of people from the inner city or people of color, people who have not had the choices that a lot of other people have. Well, here's what you find out, at least what I've seen. I like it for people, especially young kids, to realize, you mean I can grow up and write books? Yes. You can grow up to be a welder? Absolutely. I can grow up to be a teacher, because they come from a world that has so much, the people around them are so limited that they don't think they have options. So I love it when the world opens up for people. Now, here's what happens though. As soon as people open up and expanded, In the government world, if you then don't jump right into and want to be in the construction business as a female, you know what they're going to start doing? They subsidize it. They go, well, we're going to start programs that will initiate, it will incentivize you to do it. Do you want a college degree? Here's your best way. They may not really want to. They just know that's the best way to go to school, and they penalize it if you're a guy. And I'm using that just as one example.
Yeah, I totally
and I'm
agree.
preaching.
That's how they shape. That's their social engineering.
If the data doesn't match it, I'll just change the rules.
That's what I think is going on with because here's the thing. Whatever Biden did here in forgiving loans, whatever, he had this holistic education plan in the Build Back Better bill. It was there. So whatever he's doing, you have to believe that it is part of this agenda that was put forth. And this document that I was reading, which teased out the reasons for it and the reasoning behind it, makes it clear to me that that's exactly what they're doing. They're just nudging. They can't mandate, so they nudge. And like you were saying with the blackmail, they do it not only with the influence of government, but with the money. I mean, it's just genius. It's sadly,
it is sadly, it's insidious, is what it is.
Yes, exactly.
So this is not going. I say it's not going to. I just hang around smart people, so I say smart stuff sometimes, but I don't do it with a lot of confidence. My smartness knows its weaknesses. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it's very smart of you.
Thank you very much. I'm smart enough to know where I'm dumb. I don't think this is gonna. I think when he gets challenged in the Supreme Court, he does not have the authority to do this. Even Nancy Pelosi a year ago was like, he can't do this.
He himself said it.
He knows he's going to get shot down. So
the precedent would be on. I mean, it's like almost $1 trillion. Like it just couldn't. It's a crazy precedent.
It's supposed to go through Congress.
It's
right?
taxing or spending, or it's
that
a lot
goes
of
through Congress.
Frankly, administrative law is unconstitutional. So he's saying, well, I'm just doing it through the Department of Education. It's like it's unconstitutional for the same reason. Now they'll say it's under the HEROES Act or some,
which was actually created for 9/11. It was for kids after 9/11.
Yeah, and this isn't. It's too broad-based, and we're really not in any kind of emergency like that. And it's already got safety nets in place. I mean, of course, the logic doesn't allow for it, but it's the reason it will fail, in my opinion, is the magnitude.
Okay, but back up, because you maybe have said it, but I have not done a great job, I don't think, in making sure that we're structured on some of this. I want to ask, if he knows it's going to fail and it goes to the Supreme Court and it gets shot down, I know you said that there's this handshake deal, or the Republicans may step in because they play the game too. But the takeaway from this, what is his win in this then? Is it that thing that you were, what's the win?
The win is to get a federal allocation to subsidize free community college, and tie it to high school programs and work study programs. That's what I think it's going to happen. Okay. I think that's what they're going to go for. And the Republicans will do it because they'll say, look, it's not even going to be $1 trillion. It's going to be $100 billion, which is just chicken scratch compared to the trillion that he was spending doing something retroactive that has no value. So the Republicans will say, this has future looking value. So you said you like semiconductor subsidies. That's the kind of argument they're going to use. They're going to appeal to you on that.
Are they wrong?
I like community college for my own experience and for a lot of reasons that they mentioned, but that's not why they're doing it. Why they're doing it is to centrally control the pipeline of labor. And why centrally control the pipeline of labor? So you can pay nothing for it. If you have an oversupply of labor in that field, there's no pressure on wages. And if the training itself is subsidized and people are overtrained until you see who has the aptitude for it, and the government goes and repays the loans of the people who don't have the aptitude, it will greatly diminish the cost to these giant corporations. And I think that's what they're after. And yeah, I mean, it keeps you from being able to do what you're really called to do. And
I think there's a handful of people with bad intentions using people that don't know they're being used, that they have good hearts. The people with bad hearts, I think, they're playing chess, and we're playing checkers. And they're looking at 100 years from now, 50 years from now, 30 years from now. We're looking next year and 6 months. And hey, what about the next election?
10 years. I think it's 10 years. I think that's what they're looking at. And the problem is it will drive down wages, because you'll tell people they want to do it, you'll give them the skills to do it, and that's the job they're going to do. Where otherwise you'd have to entice them to do incredibly boring work.
And they've already been trained. As soon as they hit the workforce, they've been trained. So, but
and if it drives down wages in that industry, which are high, like software engineers have high wages now.
Yeah. And then you flood the market with it, or up the market of the availability for people. And so that goes from paying $75,000 to now it's $50,000,
Right.
and they can save money on it.
And I discovered this line of thinking because I noticed that Facebook and other companies like that were huge lobbyists, put big money to those H1, I want to call them H1N1 visas, but that might be a flu.
I think it's a flu, H1N1.
I think that's a flu.
Yeah.
There's a visa like HBC or whatever, that could be a bank. There's a visa like that where even Trump was like, yeah, let's let people in based on their skills. And I'm like, you're letting people in based on their skills.
H2B?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I think
and they're taking their free college and they're driving down wages here. And that stuff is heavily lobbied by big tech. And I'm saying that big tech is trying to bring that free college thing here so that they don't have to pay the high wages they would have to pay to people who had school loans. So I think a lot of it has to do with that. So look, say there's pressure right now for Facebook to give $125,000 a year salaried employee $130,000 a year. They were probably saying, hey, I've got school loans, you have to give me $130. And now Facebook gets to say, oh, your school loans were paid off, we're not giving you $130. I mean, it's as simple as that. And if they can push it down to have it preemptive, they can get the Republicans on board and keep wages low.
Well, Clint Monica, and then I got something to say real quick on that. But Clint Monica, Clint, you scored in the coding thing. We have your score between 70 and 80. So you can get a job when you get into the market for $50,000 to $60,000 right off the bat. Good job. Now, Monica, your score was 85 to 95. You're probably going to bring in between $90,000 and $105,000. So good job. And then you'll just go find those jobs that pay that much. And in the past, the job you take would have paid 175, 150. The job I took would have been 100, 125 based off my value to the company. But either way, the company gets to save money on a higher, well-trained, ready to go. And this all sounds great. Utopia. It's 1984. Why wouldn't you want that? Well, because there's no grind, personal conflict, personal risk. What do I want to do? The risk of failure. And I'm not supposed to work to feed the country, the government. I'm supposed to work for myself and my family.
And it's subsidizing the wages. So your wages are lower.
And it's subsidizing your brain. It's propaganda. It's teaching you how to.
That's
all
true.
of a sudden, there is no country.
Well, they teach you how not to think. It's not even just indoctrination. You can go to a trade school and end up not being indoctrinated one way or another, but also not really understanding the kind of the gravity of our responsibility to defend what
liberty.
Yeah, which you know, the foundational principles of this country and fundamental principles of laws of free people for millennia, arguably.
Yeah, that's why you have government that, anyway, I won't even go down that road. Me and you, I love that argument. But here's the thing. So I heard a couple of people say this, and I say it's on press conferences, so I'm going to get it wrong, and I'm not going to use specific names. But they used a couple examples of going after these colleges. Like we're already putting regulatory things in place, and we're calling a couple of colleges, and we're calling them out. We're not going to be afraid to shame them into, not scamming people. And I thought to myself immediately, I'll tell you where the scam is. The scam is when you have a reputable college that creates 50 degrees that they can now charge $100,000 to go get to attract the person from high school that 30, 40 years ago could have really gone to the barber shop and learned how to cut hair, or gone to the cosmetology school and spent a little bit of money to do it. And they could have afforded it, but now they can't. So now you've created this other degree. You're shutting down the local component of it. That's the scam in my opinion.
So this is what I think is the big picture with how it's going to affect actual education, university system and stuff. I think that there has been a concerted effort. I've noticed it. I pegged it or thought of it with that Operation Varsity Blue. I also noticed that COVID did it. They are attacking, big T, they are attacking the private colleges that middle-class people go to. So they're doing it in several ways. Lockdown closed down a bunch of small colleges. People didn't even notice that because
shut
who
them
was going
down.
to pay? Yeah, just shut them down, never to open again. But that Varsity Blues thing attacked people for giving huge scholarships to regular schools for their kids to go to them. So I went to Harvard and they paid for it because they have an endowment that's enormous. And specific people, like I got it from some lady who died and left an endowment for a young woman to go to college, and she paid for me, and she's long dead, and I appreciate her. So my husband wants me to pay her back. I've probably figured that out. But so they can do that. That's Ivy League. And I also went to community college because it was practically free. That's what happened to me. But a lot of people who didn't have super poor parents or really high test scores will take their good student, smart kids who they want to go into a profession and they've been successful, and they'll pay those high tuitions, they'll give endowments, blah, blah, blah. Now, people are afraid of giving endowments after Lori Loughlin, who was completely innocent, went to jail, completely innocent. I did a lot of work on her, went to jail for giving money away. And that will dry up funding at those schools. And I think it will, whether it shuts them all down, it's probably not going to shut USC down, but it's going to shut a lot of those down. And you're going to end up having the third worlding of education, just like you have it in healthcare and security. You're going to have the Ivy Leagues where you don't have to pay anything. So if you're a poor, smart kid, you get to go there free. If you're a rich kid, you're going to run the world from there. And the rest is going to be just the public schools with the free community college, for the tradesmen, for the tech equivalent of tradesmen, and just the kind of administrative class getting indoctrinated in the 4-year public colleges.
Yeah, this seems to be what we do. The government takes a bunch of our money, it creates a bunch of problems, and it says what we need is we need more influence to fix the problem, and we need some more money, and we're going to take the money and we're going to spread it out amongst those that we feel have been disenfranchised. Disenfranchised. We're going to help people that we feel need our help, and it never works. It really doesn't ever work. And if it does work, it's one-off anecdotal stories. It's never worked really en masse, and it's not a way to do public policy. And so, like you said, they're going to shut down local options. They'll criticize the ones that they deem scammers. And again, they don't ever address that. I would love, and somebody's out there done it, I'm sure. I would like to know how many degrees were available, how many majors were available in the 70s and 80s versus how many are now. I'd like to know that. And I'm not saying all the ones that are created are not viable majors, and some that we had back then weren't a waste of time because life changes and workforce changes. I'm just saying it seems like they're creating majors now just to make sure you got a way to go to college.
Maybe. And they get too refined so that they have no practical application whatsoever.
Hey, when you were talking on your deep dive yesterday, are there a couple of things that we did not bring up that you want to make sure people know about? Because I want to make sure that people understand. And if you want to tease it and just say, yeah, there are, but I'm not going to tell you.
No.
Listen to my podcast.
There was a really funny line that in this all one system thing that said, we want these counselors who are directing these kids, their life path, we want them to work for the student, not the school, the way the doctors work for patients and not the hospital. And I just thought that was so funny because COVID was just riddled with doctors who put their loyalty to their hospital affiliation, which was really their paycheck, above their loyalty to the patient. I mean, that defined it.
Yeah, oh God, I've got so many anecdotal stories behind the scenes of people going, I asked my doctor about this, and they go, well, here's what I'll tell you, but it's not official. Or they would say, I can't answer that because I can't get in trouble.
I did have two things. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. No, go.
So I did want to, first of all, I don't understand how nobody has standing. Like, this is a big problem for everything the government does. Like, nobody has standing to sue, from elections to spending to taxing to anything. So in order for the Supreme Court to hear this case, the Supreme Court has to accept it from somebody. And generally speaking, taxpayers don't have standing. Some single individual has to be gravely injured by this policy. And I mean, it's like we have absolutely no recourse. How do we have recourse against the executive? I just don't know how.
I don't either. And this is, and I know my limited little pea brain is just running like a hamster right now in the little spinning wheel, because the only thing that I think that can sue the federal government is the states, right? The states can sue the federal government. Can't they not? Can they not?
I thought they could. Yeah.
But I don't think this is once it gets to this level, I don't think they have the ability to do that. And it's taxed. I think what's going to eventually happen, Monica, is you're going to have some states just say, hey, we're not going to. And if you live in the state of Florida, and I'm using it as an example, we're just not going to. We don't want your federal dollars to come back here. Just in other words, you keep your dollars and just don't take them from the people that live here in this state.
Well, that's the problem. That's why I guess when we instituted the income tax, we negated apportionment. See, but apportionment, I think you would have had the standing as a state. Also, I wanted to say, like, the more they pull people into like government work through this, like saying that if you go work for the government, your school loans will be paid off. Like, my only hope for the woke generation, for the commies, who are getting weaned off TikTok and entering the world, is if they work in the private sector, they will understand what it means for the rubber to hit the road, what taxes really mean. They take the taxes out of your hands and give them to your idiot friend who is just a stoner. Like, that will piss you off. And also having babies, I think that'll change some. But the more this kind of disconnection between decision making and outcomes, the less likely you're going to rescue this woke generation from clear thinking, from muddy thinking, I guess. So there's that, and then there's the midterms.
Well, you're removing them from the consequences.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, you were saying something.
And the midterms. How is this going to affect the midterms? I guess that's just a question for both of us.
I don't think it's going to. I think the red wave is coming. I don't think the red wave is going to be as big as everybody thinks it is. I just don't think it is. I think, my hope is that Ron DeSantis runs and Trump fades into just kind of becomes the president maker for the Republicans. I wouldn't mind that a bit. I'm ready for him I think he served his purpose. I'm ready for him to deem someone else. Right. I think Ron DeSantis is built for it. I think midterms, I think the Republicans are going to do well. But it depends. It depends on what the economy does in the next 60 to 90 days.
Good point. And I think that's one of the reasons one of the features of this executive order was to delay the resumption of loan payments from the end of August to the end of the year, to be after the midterms. But there was one other little wrinkle in there that they were talking about. I don't think it was in the executive order, but it also pertained to that bill that had all the new IRS agents. In both cases, loan forgiveness and tax filing, they want to process your documentation automatically. Mm-hmm. And they said they can do that if they already have all of your financial information in the system. So they're going to encourage you. They're going to file your taxes for you. I mean, that's total surveillance, and that will probably go hand in hand with the digital
currency. You are taking me down rabbit holes. It's supposed to be about college. Damn it.
It is though. They use every lever they can.
This is all tied into this. The octopus is in the middle, and it's the legs that are going out from it. We act like they're separate things, but it all ties back into one brain. And I'm telling you that's why they're doing the releasing a million barrels of oil a day. When right up until midterms, they're doing all of these things. All of these things. And now you have even some, like I think it's New York or California, that you can vote now and you don't even have to be a citizen. You don't have to prove you're a citizen.
I know. Actually, I feel like that's not even unconstitutional. As long as you keep the electoral college in place, then it doesn't matter to me.
They're not registered. Hey, whoa. How can you vote if you're not an American? Do you want people to vote who don't have standing in America?
Citizens? I have issues with voting because they use voting as a way to change fundamental law, which is totally illegitimate in my opinion. I just feel like the electoral college, you should be able to appropriate your votes anywhere you want.
But if you're not registered and you can just go vote, then you can manipulate a county you live in, and you don't have to pay a lot of the taxes.
I was just thinking about the presidential thing. I mean, however, I just think of subsidiarity when it comes to voting. How people vote in Miami-Dade County, I don't care.
Okay, I'll say this out loud. I personally, Clint Powell, believe that if you're not an American citizen, you should not be. You don't get the privilege of voting in our elections.
I don't know. I guess I feel like I believe in the right to work and travel. I don't necessarily.
Do you believe in borders? Me and you
I
are
believe in
about
the
to have
borders of my property. I can tell you that much.
me and you are about to have a falling out. I do
Oh
believe.
no. I mean, the only reason you need national borders is because they violate my private borders. If we got to all get together and make whatever rules we wanted on the contiguous border of our joint property, it would be fine, but they don't allow that. So if you can't discriminate against people you don't know, which you're not allowed to, then all of a sudden you have to push your border ownership to the national borders. So yeah, I've written a lot.
Well, in order to
extensively.
avoid the tribal or the clan-based living, you
No,
have to. Yeah,
no,
we've
I'm
talked
not.
about this.
Yeah, no, I've written extensively on how you have to have border control. You have to have it because we don't have a free society, but we should have a free society, and you wouldn't need national borders. The big reason why it matters is that they're tying the right to work and travel to citizenship, which comes with voting rights. So what you need to do is decouple the right to work and travel from citizenship. I don't know why nobody talks about that. Do not create, and then once you do that, you could have very porous borders because people would go back and forth. They don't want to live here. They want to work here. They don't want to live here. They'll work.
Oh, they do want to live here. I think they do want to live here.
Because they get welfare and stuff.
That's
but
it.
Not,
but I mean,
yeah, but that's all.
If the cheese is
problems.
here, that's where if the cheese is here, if the food, if this is where they come.
I understand, but that's a problem, and they actually foster the welfare to attract the immigrants to get the voters for the welfare because it bloats government. So
it's the light and the moth.
The problem is that we do not have a free society. We have a lot of labor and safety net issues. I mean, I've written. I'll give you the link to I've done absolute comprehensive work on it to the point where libertarians get mad at me because I want
to read it, and then I want to do a podcast with me, you, and Eric on it.
Okay.
I think that would be fun.
Oh, I think we would all 100% agree with everything I said. I don't think there would.
I would find some places just to totally piss you off and gaslight you, and just say something like, and you'd be like, "No, that's not what I'm saying." Now, if I hear you correctly, Monica, you're saying you hate America. Now, why do you hate? God dang it, like, that's not what I'm saying. I would just do that for the ratings or something. Hey, real quick, I want to back up, and then I got 3 last questions. Unless there's something else on your list that you covered yesterday that we didn't. Okay, when you said. And this is something I do agree with you on how do we not have people that don't have standing? The definition of what injury is, grievous injury, right? I think we could build a case that what this administration is doing right now with open borders and the Inflation Act, Reduction Act, which afterwards they take the inflation, but they don't talk about it now as inflation. It's the Environmental Act they're talking about. So I think you could say that we have been damaged as a society, especially our futures. Could we not sue on behalf of our kids 10 or 20 years down the road?
It's taxation without representation.
There's your standing right there. There's your standing.
But it doesn't. Taxpayers do not have standing. It's been
we got to get around that. We got to get Eric.
No,
get Eric and you on this. Yeah,
it's outrageous. No, I mean it has to go another way.
3 quick questions. I want Monica's hot takes.
Okay.
Fauci's retiring.
Thank goodness, because he is evil.
And do you want to give anybody a background on that who may be listening?
I think he killed my brother.
He didn't show up and kill your brother. Let's back up.
If it weren't for him, my brother would not have died when and where he did. So my brother had no symptoms of AIDS whatsoever. He got a PCR test, which gave him a positive, but anyone with hepatitis will get a positive for AIDS on a PCR test, 100%. So he had hepatitis. He got a positive PCR test for AIDS, no symptoms at all. He was given AZT, which in trials was not recommended for someone who did not have symptoms, but Fauci overturned that and recommended it. And it was based on Fauci alone, if I understand correctly, that it was given to people. And my brother said, this stuff is making me sick. I'm not going to take it anymore. And he died anyway of AZT poisoning. So I blame Fauci for that.
This was in the 80s or 90s?
This was 1995.
And I'm sorry, I say that every time.
Oh, that's all right. But I mean, when you live with a junkie and stuff, like you kind of lose sympathy. But I mean, it didn't.
Still your brother.
He wanted to get clean. Yeah, he wanted to get clean, and he went to get a clean bill of health. And it would have been great if the outcome had been the opposite. It would have been super awesome, but it wasn't. And it does suck because he didn't OD. He died of AZT. And my sister died of fentanyl, which I also blame the government for, but not necessarily Fauci.
Well, I think when it comes out, I think eventually they're going to look back and Fauci, I'm not saying he did all bad things, but he has a track record of misrepresenting what he's doing. I think Rand Paul's been just hammering him for the last, and rightly so. That's what I love to watch people melt down when they go, did you see the questioning from those mean? And I'm like, that's what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to go, hey, let's
see. I think that was all a show to make it look like there was a leak from a lab, which makes it look like it was an accident. And I think it was on purpose.
No, but my takeaway from it though is I just whatever the game. I just like to watch Fauci. So I mean Rand Paul. Yeah. So you think Rand Paul was part of the game?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think he does what he's asked to stay in the game. I don't really.
Who do you trust in government?
Well, I used to. As a matter of fact, Rand Paul called me once and he wrote me a letter.
Let's get him on the podcast.
No, I can't reach him. The letter was personal. It was like, thank you for the blog post that you wrote about me. And I was like, wow, you're welcome.
Okay, but who do you trust?
Well, I told him when he called to look for some fundraising thing, I said, you're that old Greek thing, or is it, it's not Damocles, it's Diosthenes maybe, was looking through the Capitol for one honest man with his lantern. Oh. And I said that he could have been looking from then till now and not found one until he found your dad, Ron Paul. And I'm still only 99% on Ron Paul.
So there's zero people you trust. I love
Justin Amash. I did trust Justin Amash, but he completely made a left turn by accident, I think. And I mean, I think that's kind of like my evidence that anybody who's really doing it right is going to get shut down.
But don't you think? But I mean,
I would have trusted him, but I think they got to him. They had to. They must have threatened him with something awful.
But there's also part of this where human beings are not going to do everything we agree with. There's going to make some problem. They're going to make a bad decision or two. In other words, I don't know if anybody's going to make 100% of the decisions.
I'm not talking about that. You said trust.
Yeah. So there's nobody you trust at all.
Genuine.
Yeah.
I think, Thomas Massey is probably genuine. I don't know enough about him.
How about Donald Trump? What are you laughing for? How about Ron DeSantis?
Oh my gosh, he was both a Navy SEAL and a JAG at the same time, and he went to Yale. I do not trust DeSantis.
Do you trust me? If I ran for office, would you trust me?
I would trust you to do what you thought was right. Yes, I would.
I like how you put that. What you thought was right. I don't know if it'd be right, Clint, but you would think.
I'm not sure I would vote for you, but I would trust you.
Shame on you.
I only vote for Ron Paul. He's the only person I vote for.
I'm going to, you know what? My number one goal before I pass from this earth is to get you to write me in on one. I don't even care if I live there. I just want to be written in.
Sometimes I vote for my mom.
Even a local thing. I just want it to be, who's Clint Powell? How in the hell did he get a ride in? I want you to, that's what I want.
I'll write you in the next time I have the opportunity, and I'll look in the paper and see if they say that Clint Powell got one vote.
If they do.
If they don't, then we have a suit on our hands.
We do. I want to be represented in the county I don't live in, damn it. Hey, okay, so Fauci retires. Do you have any new Deep Dives with Monica merch?
Oh, I do. I don't have it handy because I'm not at my home, but I have a really cool mug. So you can get to, it's really, really nice. It's a beautiful water blue for deep dives. It's a little complicated. Go to monicasdeepdives.com. And there's a button that says support, and then there's a drop down that says shop.
Hold on.
Support, then shop. Monica's Deep Dives.
You have 2 more minutes for me?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Deep Dives or Deep Dive?
monicasdeepdives.com.
All right.
I'm just doing it on my phone. So there's a support button, and then that has a drop down that says shop. And then you click to open the door of the store. And then you have Deep Dives.
I don't have a door.
So did you go to support and shop, and then it says click here to open the door?
Oh, yep, I do see it now. Hold on. I lied. All right, here's what I'm going to do. Oh,
it's
so you got yours and it's through the Propaganda Reports website. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Oh, I see it. Here's what I'm doing right now, too.
It's super cheerful. It's a great way to wake up in the morning.
It is.
That logo normally has my face on it, but I took my mug off my mug.
Oh, you should have left your mug on there.
You think so? So I did get some complaints.
By the way, I'll put it on here too. There, if you're listening, I'll put it in the show notes. But if you're watching, or if you want to go to my Facebook page or During the Break podcast Facebook page, go to this video, and I'll put a link directly to that. So here's what I think. I think you should make a mug that has nothing like this. It's you on the mug, and it's a special. It's a mug with your mug.
Monica's mug.
It's a mug. Monica's mug. Oh my God, that's one of the great. Tell me how cool that is. No, that's marketing.
Okay, I will mull that over.
You can buy Monica's mug. That's a T-shirt too. Monica's mug.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna start calling. That's a new podcast. It's Monica's mug. Hey, are you still doing the last thing? Are you not last thing, but are you still doing your drink thing?
I kind of switched to kvass and CBD. So I'm a little bit off. I was on a diet. I quit drinking to go on a diet. I gained 4 pounds. So that didn't work at all. So I don't drink as much as I used to. And because I love the CBD, it just makes me sleep so much better. And
what kind of CBD are you taking? Is it like a Delta?
It's my guy at True Hemp Science, and I actually became an affiliate, but I can't figure out how to work it. So I could tell you how to get a discount and give me money, but I just get it myself.
What's the name?
It's True Hemp Science, and I mean, it's just fantastic. Like, I didn't think it was like a real thing because it doesn't get you high. So I ate a gummy, which is 25 milligrams, which is like too much. I wouldn't recommend that, but I just wanted to see if it did anything. So I just ate one while I was working, and I was like, I won't even notice. Then about an hour later, I was like, I don't really feel like working anymore. And I just like hung out, and I thought to myself, I'm not high, but I'm not worried about anything. And then I slept like a rock. And I'm a true believer. Now I don't do 25. I only do like 18. And there's like I can't figure them all out. I have one of every one of his oils. There's cookies, brownies. It's just fantastic. I have all the oils, and I really can't tell the difference. He's like, these are the ones for the daytime. I'm like, I'm definitely not eating it during the day. Like, these are the ones at nighttime. So I don't really know, but you can call him and he'll just talk to you about that and other little things that are good for your skin. And I just love him. He's awesome. I've met him. He's such a good guy. Like, I can't believe he even makes a profit, but it's expensive.
Does he sponsor your podcast?
He's always trying to. Like, he wants to send me money for commercials and stuff, but I have like canned commercials. Oh.
I don't understand. I was like, the damn capitalist is coming out of me.
I know. I just because he.
Hey, dude. Well, wait. Now, I'm muting your mic. Watch this. You can't even talk right now. Your mic is muted. Hey, Hemp Dude, if you're wanting to sponsor a podcast, I am all in, homeboy. Okay, back to Monica.
I will tell him. I mean, it's the best. Sorry. I just feel like I just don't do.
That's one of the greatest things I've ever heard you say. He's trying to send me money.
I know. I tell him, like, don't send me money. So I did ask him though if I could be an affiliate. So if he gives my people a discount and they use it, and that I give a little percentage of that, that would be like the way. Because like I have I have the ads that are commercials, which are great. It's a privilege to get commercials, and that pays for my production expenses. Mm-hmm. But nothing pays for the time I don't do my housework and stuff.
If you sold mugs, Monica's mugs, they would.
It's so funny. I take myself a little too seriously, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to get over that.
I think you should.
It seems like it lacks dignity.
It does. Here's what it totally does. We're doing podcasts. Here's what I think. If you do Monica's mugs, right?
Yeah.
And you can have one of your favorite libertarian quotes. Just come up with your favorite quotes and put it around the lip of the thing,
Yeah.
Just whatever your favorite.
Live free or die. That's a good one.
Live free or die. Monica's mugs. Like, let's get like this.
I like it. It would have to be. Yeah.
And then charge $50, $100 a mug.
That's a good idea because I really wouldn't want a lot of them out there.
No. That's for special people. It's $100. And every time you hit $10,000 in mug sales, you give a percentage to a concern, something that is like to the farmers or something. So you'll be making fun of yourself, but the money would be going to support.
Okay. All right, I'll think about that.
Hey, last question from you. Is that a Led Zeppelin t-shirt?
It is. Isn't it lovely?
Yes.
It's the nicest.
It is.
I know. I love
My
it.
daughter, I've raised my daughter right. I just dropped her off at college after all this talk 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
oh,
And
yeah, me
she's
too.
a,
No, I'm gonna do the same thing. They won't not go. I
they
tell them
won't.
don't go.
I told my daughter. You know what I
She'll
told
take her
Katie?
own loans out if necessary.
I told Katie, I said, you know, if I had to overdo again with her, I told her, I said, if I were to say I will spend the same amount of money on you for the next 4 years, put it in a bank account
Yes.
and save it up. And at 4
Totally.
years, you can go start your own business or buy
Yeah.
a house
Go
or buy
flip
your
a
first.
house. Yeah, flip a house.
Go try
No.
jobs for the next 4 years, find out
won't
what you
do it.
like. Just know that when you graduate, there'll be $20,000, $30,000 sitting there. And she's like, no.
I told my son, like, do that. Take the money, flip a house. And he's super based. Like, he gets it. And he's like, how about I just become an architect? I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's when
It's
it
a real
requires.
thing. Yes.
That is. It's
yes.
not like dance
I said, you
theory
gotta
that I
take,
took.
yeah. As long as it's with an eye to being an entrepreneur, I'm okay with it.
I took dance theory. Do I look like a dancer? Hey,
Did you really?
no, I
Oh.
didn't take dance theory.
I mean, to meet chicks, if anything. I mean, it's not a bad path.
Well, I was a
I became a
communicationist
banker
with this-
because I loved men.
What the hell? Seems to me you would have gone into construction business then. There's a lot of men there too.
I'm very good at math, and I'm not great with nails.
Construction stuff. Well, I'm just saying my daughter loves the classic rock. So when I saw the Led Zeppelin shirt, so one of her favorite songs is, of course, you know, she goes down these deep roads. So
my husband just loves my look, which is I wear like a rock shirt and then I wear like a blazer. And he just thinks with a nice pair of jeans, he's just like, that's so cool. So
see,
I'm out on the weekend with my husband, so I thought I would. Although it's hot and I'm sweating, I don't know. Might have to change the outfit.
I am really glad that you and your husband.
Desert.
Well, I'm glad that your husband let you come on and play a little bit on the podcast. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I encourage everybody to go check out Monica's Deep Dives, the Propaganda Report. Go buy her merch. The links are here. Well, go buy a mug, and we'll look for what this big idea you're going to do with the mugs and where that money's going to go. Maybe that will help fund your garden.
Okay, you know what? If I could sell 100 mugs, I wouldn't need to make any money for like 2 years.
Okay, everybody just commit to Monica that you're going to go buy a mug if she puts one out there. Hey, thank you for coming on.
That was super, super fun. Thank you so much.
We used to do this on a really consistent basis. So
yes.
But this is now I understand life's gotten in the way, but when I get you back on, it's always a blast. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye, everybody. Oh, tell your mom for me.
Oh, I will. And I love that Clinton. He's my friend, the Tennessee guy.
That's my favorite thing you do right there. See you later.
My friend Clint.
Bye.